All right, let's try this again. I'm trying a streaming software here, so can you guys hear me? Or can anybody actually see this? Let's take a look here. I'm not sure if it sent out a notification that I've gone live. Okay. Finally. That's a relief. Oh, sorry for the delay. Of course, you know, as luck would have it, it didn't go right. But I think we're good now. I should have given this more thought. Of course, having a week to prepare and test everything wasn't good enough. And you know, who'd have thought? I mean, trying to have a live stream in the middle of Amish country where Wi-Fi is non-existent. I mean, what a great idea. What could possibly go wrong? So anyway, I don't even remember where I was. Where did I leave off? What was the last thing you guys saw? I'm streaming from my laptop now instead of this piece of crap phone, so I'm not quite as mobile. I'm afraid to really move it around because I don't know. I don't know if it's going to mess with the Wi-Fi connection or not. But where did I leave off? Anybody? What was the last thing you guys saw? Well, whatever. I guess it doesn't really matter. I think I was saying that pretty much everything I own is a project right now. I've said it many times before, but it's truer now than ever. Too many projects and not enough time. So, talking about Craftsman tractors, yeah, I've actually had a few offers on Craftsman tractors. I've hauled a couple for friends, and I don't know. I mean, they're just not my cup of tea. Maybe if I bought one to fix and flip, I'd probably, or if somebody gave me one for free, like the one I had, probably, when was that, 2015, so going on 6 years ago, then I would probably take one in, but it would have to be one of those deals that falls into place at the right time. I don't really have much of an inclination towards those. Chance says, love your videos. Inspired me to work on my 317. Well, hey, man, that really means a lot. It really does. This is going to show my age, but, way back in the old days of YouTube when I started, so 2011, 2012-ish, YouTube was a very, very different platform back in those days. People posted on YouTube if they wanted to show, something out of the blue, something different. I think, I'm trying to remember, the first YouTube video I posted was my piano recital back in 2012, which I don't really play the piano anymore. I'd like to get back into it, but my point is, back in the day when I started on YouTube, people posted YouTube videos just to kind of show, like, oh, here's something cool that happened, or here's, at that point in time, people were starting to make videos of, like, oh, here's my car, here's my tractor, my garden tractor that I'm fixing up. It was not so much of a recurring thing. Like, you would just make one video of a project or something, and then that would be it. Nowadays, people want to see more content. YouTube has really, the viewership on YouTube has really shot up. People are obviously really building their channels up. They've got a lot more subscribers now and a lot more followers, and people always want to see more content. So, if you make one video on something, you basically have to turn it into a series, and that's kind of what my channel evolved into. Originally, it was just an occasional video of me doing a piano cover of a certain song that everybody knew, or, oh, here's a video of me driving my old Home Depot John Deere into the shed, or here's this old John Deere 210 that I picked up. And I never would have thought, that was 9 years ago. That was 2012 that I bought that tractor, so I would have never thought 9 years later that my channel would have blown up into something, that basically focuses on tractors and garden tractors. I originally started the channel just to kind of show, like, oh, here's a project I'm working on. This is my hobby. I was, growing up, going through grade school, I was always bullied for having that as an interest, because like who in the right mind would have an obsession or an interest in tractors? I mean, it's just not something you see hardly at all anymore. So I always got called out for it, and I said, you know what, I want to express this to the world in a different way. So I really, between that and the piano playing, I really wanted to put that out there to the world, and that's basically how the YouTube channel started. But I never would have imagined it would have grown into what it is now. I figured it would have been something that I just did for a little while and it would have died off. But nonetheless, here we are. And I owe a lot of this to you guys, because I've just from getting to meet people. I mean, the friends that I've made through social media, through YouTube, through Facebook, they're some of the greatest people I've ever gotten to know, and I've really gotten to meet some incredible friends who I can tell will be lifelong friends. And even though we only see each other a handful of times a year in person, and there's a lot more out there that I have yet to meet in person, but I do plan to. You can just tell that those kinds of people are the ones who you'll stick with for the rest of your life. So, and it's funny. I always, growing up, I always bashed social media, saying, "Oh, you can't make friends with people on social media. You got to get out there and socialize in person," which is still partially true. But in this day and age, seeing where society's headed, I mean, that seems like that is the best way to get to meet people. And nothing is more satisfying than being able to meet up with people who I've been chatting with on YouTube and on Facebook and on other social media platforms for years and years. To get to actually put a name to a face is really, it's really a great opportunity. That's one of the joys of getting to go out to farm shows and tractor shows and all the different events that I go to, because you get to do just that. You get to put names to faces. So, oh man. So let me see if let's see if I can backtrack a little bit here. See if I can catch up on some of these comments. Too many projects. Yep. Sons of McCormick. Did you make it to Rough and Tumble? I did. I was at not this past weekend. I was at the Threshermen's reunion back in August. I was there for a couple hours on Saturday, I think. I actually, I brought the 2072, which is sitting right over here. I did bring the 2072 with me, but I only drove it around for a little bit. There's so many people, so many things going on, and I had another event to get to later that day, so I drove around for like an hour, bought a couple things at the swap meet, and loaded up and left. It's a good show, though. It's not far from where I live, and it's really, to be able to see so many people running 100-plus-year-old steam engines and, running sawmills and blacksmithing and things like that is really a neat opportunity. One of the things I love about being out here in Pennsylvania Dutch country. We had a Sears FF24 with a loader for our main loader tractor. But then we brought a case loader tractor, so it got sold. I could really use a loader tractor right now, to be honest with you. I'm not really looking to spend a whole lot of money on one, which they kind of go hand in hand. You got to pay up if you want a decent tractor with a loader. Loaders bring such good money, but I could use one around the property here just for moving stuff around and to use as a hoist. And you don't really realize how handy those things are until you don't have one. Back home when I was in New Jersey, I used to use my uncle's loader tractors, or have him, come over and help me out. We would use the bucket as a hoist, or I was saying before, we used that tractor with the bucket to try and break the John Deere 60 loose. So my point is, there's a lot of different uses for loaders. And actually, as a matter of fact, just today I was in New Jersey. I delivered and installed a loader on a Kubota M5 tractor that we had sold. It was a quick attach loader, so it went on in like 30 seconds. But they're pretty handy for sure. And on 360 Sears Suburbans, they were a lot better quality than these modern Craftsmans for sure. Yeah, that almost goes without saying. Just in the last day or so, I had an interesting debate, I guess you could call it, with a viewer on one of my John Deere X570 reviews. I think it may have been the 100-hour review, the one that's got like 150,000 or 160,000 views. He was basically, to make a long story short, he was trying to explain to me how his T310 Craftsman tractor is better than my X570, even though it has all of the same the same powertrain components, like the same engine and transaxle and all that stuff. And I tried to push them on, edge them on a little bit, get them heated up, and then I just quit. It's not worth it. You get a lot of comments like that all the time. That's one of those things where people don't realize you get what you pay for. So while our X570 is still running and working hard with thousands of hours on it, his Craftsman will be sitting in a junkyard. Let's see. Scott H asks, do you collect farm toys? I do. I don't have any here with me in Pennsylvania, but back in New Jersey, I've got a pretty good collection. I got, any farm kid, anybody who was interested in trucks or tractors as a little kid would usually get toy trucks or tractors as Christmas gifts. And I have to try and remember now. I think one of the first farm toys I got, like talking about die-cast models, was a John Deere A that I still have. I think it was a Christmas or a birthday gift from my grandparents. I'm trying to remember, but I've had so many, it's hard to keep track of them all. But I have just over 100, I think. Most of them are 1/16 scale. Most of them are die-cast. Most of them are John Deere. I have a bunch of different brands though, but I have one shelf in my bedroom back home that's just John Deere. It's 4 or 5 shelves, and I have like probably 8 or 9 2-cylinder models on each shelf. So I have every model from the GP all the way up to the 830, and then I have a couple newer ones like the 4430s and stuff like that. And then on my other shelf, I have basically one model of every tractor my grandfather owned when he was farming. So a Ford 4000, Massey Ferguson 1130, Alice Chalmers G, Farmall AV. I have a Farmall B as well. And then I have the Cub Cadet 82 series models, the red 682, the white and yellow 782, and then I guess it'd be like an 1811 model that they made. So I have each of those as well. So needless to say, I do have a lot of farm toys. Let's see. Obsessed with ceiling fans since I was a kid. Yeah, it's interesting what kind of things we get obsessed over, what kind of things we take interest in. But the way I look at it, it's cheaper and a lot safer than getting into drugs or alcohol. So, well, I guess I shouldn't say cheaper, but safer. It's a safer alternative. There are far worse things to spend your money on. One big tractor family. Yep. Hey, Mike. Hey, Damon. Jacob Downs asked, do you ever want a 332? I've thought about it. I've run a few 332s. I think the biggest thing for me, the biggest reason I haven't bought one is simply because of cost. And I've mentioned before, I don't know if you've happened to watch the videos of the 882 Cub that I used to have, but the reason I bought that over a 330 or 332 was because they're a little bit easier to work on because the radiator and the whole cooling system is up in front of the tractor. It's not shoved underneath the dash column like on a Deere. And the Deere diesels are great tractors. Don't get me wrong. I know everybody and their brother wants one. But the Cub Cadets are a little bit cheaper to buy, a little bit easier to work on. There's a little more space to stick your hands in underneath the hood. And they're less common. The 882 was only made for 1 year, and I just so happened to get a deal on the one that I had. And quite frankly, it's the only garden tractor that I really regret selling. But I've said it before: life gets in the way, expenses come up, and sometimes you just gotta let things go. In this case, I had to basically redo the entire exhaust on my old blue F-150. So. Everything from the catalytic converters back, I had to replace all of that because it was just rotted out. So I had to sell the 882 to fund that. But I'll find another one. I will. Steamorama in Windsor. I've heard about that show. I actually I do want to make it out one of these years. I just completely slipped my mind that it was this past weekend, and I had some other busy things going on at home. The whole tornado mess kind of screwed up my plans for the rest of the year, because I have basically I keep an Excel spreadsheet where I keep track of all the shows that are coming up, where they're at, and how far away they are from me, and the dates, of course. So I've been keeping a spreadsheet, and when the tornado happened, I decided I'm going to try and spend a lot of my weekends going back home to help out. So that threw a wrench into things, but that's all right. Well, we're getting through it. We will rebuild. It may take some time, but we will rebuild. Hope you're doing well, Spencer says. Same to you, bud. Would they allow a Craftsman GT3000 to plow a PA plow day? I have a good plow and sleeve hitch. I don't see why not. The one thing I will say about PA plow day is it's in the last couple of years, especially since guys like me started posting videos of it and really hyping it up. It's really, really, really blowing up, and it's honestly, I think it's outgrown itself. The biggest issue is that, guys are showing up from all over the place, and the amount of land that they give us to plow is getting smaller and smaller. In 2019, we had a lot of the fields that we usually plow were lost because it had just downpoured the night before, and they didn't dry out in time. And one of the big fields we plow, which is probably, I don't know, maybe 20 acres or so, they had built a new chicken house on that field, so we lost all that ground too. So like I said, the biggest issue with the plow day is, well, one, if you're going to show up to the plow day, just, make sure your machine is ready to go. Make sure your plow is dialed in, because there's a lot of guys there that don't like guys who don't set their plows up right. I admit it, I'm guilty. I showed up, the first couple of years not really knowing what I was doing, just figuring, I got a tractor and a sleeve hitch plow. I'm going to go have fun, but it really helps to know how to set your plow up. And there's plenty of knowledgeable guys there that can help you. I'm still learning. I mean, I've gone to a ton of plow days now with 3 or 4 different tractors, and I'm still learning. There's an art to it. Just don't be one of them guys that shows up and just goes to drop their plow on the ground and thinks that thinks that they can do it. There is an art to plowing. But yeah, as far as the Craftsman GT3000, I don't see why not. As long as you've got good tires and plenty of weight. Got to go to 6 threshing shows this year, and we'll go to more next year. Yeah, I would like to go to get out to more shows like that. Damon asks, will you ever buy a diesel truck? Well, funny you should mention it. I'm actually in the process of searching for one right now. I'm getting ready to sell my old blue trusty F-150, my old 2000, and upgrade to a Super Duty. I'm pretty much since the beginning, I've wanted to buy a 7.3 Power Stroke. They're just, they're legendary. There's nothing about them. There's really nothing about them guys don't like, except that they're not the fastest or most powerful engine out there, but they're reliable. They're hard to beat. My uncle had one. He had a dually 7.3 when I was a little kid, and I've wanted one for the longest time. And a bunch of my friends are driving them now, and I feel like I'm the only one left who doesn't have one. So you could say I'm a little jealous, but I'm looking for the right truck. It's got to be spec'd out the way I want it. And I know it's like finding a needle in a haystack, but it's got to have an extended cab, 8-foot bed, 4-wheel drive, manual transmission, because I'm sick of automatics. I like to find one with a vinyl floor if I can, because I'm always carrying tools and parts and getting the floor dirty. So vinyl floor will clean up much easier. So I'm looking for a Super Duty 7.3, 99 to 03 model year. They're out there. I just got to look. I'll drive, a good distance to find the right one. And, with proper maintenance, it should last me many, many years. I'm just I need to move up from half-ton trucks. I foresee myself getting into bigger and bigger toys in the future, and I just bought a bigger trailer, actually, so I need something a little bit more suited to pull it. I'm going to have a video on the trailer coming soon as well. Just haven't had time. Hey, Joe, would you ever consider buying a Deutsch Simplicity? Maybe, if the right deal came up, but as far as buying more tractors, I'm pretty swamped right now. I'm actually kind of overwhelmed with the amount of work I have to do. So I was saying before how I keep a spreadsheet of all the shows I go to, or I'm planning to go to. I'm also keeping a spreadsheet of all the work that needs to be done to my tractors, and I have a lengthy list of items for every tractor. So I'm not sure if I was live when, or if you guys could hear me when I was talking about it, but basically I was just kind of going over what every tractor needs. So the 318 needs the engine pulled out, resealed, needs the flyball spacer fixed because it has the over rev issue. I'm going to change a couple leaky seals and replace all the leaky fittings and hoses on the plow. That tractor sat in a barn for like 15 years, I think, so it doesn't surprise me that it leaks like a sieve. 2072 basically needs all the same work done. The engine just needs a freshen up and needs a new starter now too. The Cub needs the carburetor rebuilt or finished rebuilt. And I'm going to change it. I think I might just go over and do a valve adjustment on it, give it a tune up, and then get it out of here because I got to make room for some other projects. The 782, I'm still trying to figure out the kinks with that. It's been a good plow tractor. It treated me really well this past spring at plow days, but it needs some fine tuning. I kept breaking the pins on the lower lift arms on the 3-point hitch. The engine still surges, which I need to figure that out. The steering is kind of tight. It doesn't feel like true power steering should. And just, little things, but it's a tractor that I slapped together, so it's not going to be perfect. Corey says, I need to find a 318 to get into the clan. Well, if you want to make a trip over here to Lancaster County, there's one literally right next door to me. My next door neighbor, 50 feet away, has one sitting under his barn there. He actually just recently passed away a couple weeks ago, and I imagine his widow will want to sell it soon. But it's got a 50-inch deck and a power angle 54-inch blade. So I thought about buying it, but I don't need another project right now. So, that one might be up for the grabs. I'd like to buy a 322. I think that would be great to complement the 425. I agree. Chance asks, how's the 210? The 210's good. It hasn't really been getting much use at all. I did use it right after the tornado hit, just pulling the 80 cart around the yard to clean up stuff. It needs some work. I haven't really done much with it since Tyler's plow day last year when the hydraulic hoses broke. So I can't use the hydraulics for anything because they just leak. They just piss out oil. So I can only use it, in a very limited way. But it was sitting at my grandparents' garage across the street when the tornado hit. So, luckily it was okay. It'll start right up. But I think the carburetor needs to be rebuilt again because it just sat with old gas in it for so long. I can count on one hand the number of times I've started it this year. It just doesn't get used anymore. But, I would probably be better off to sell it, but I can't. It was the first garden tractor I bought, the one that built my channel. My grandfather helped me work on it. My uncles all helped me work on it. And it's been everywhere to all the shows, so I can't get rid of it. I'm not sure if I'm going to bring it up here to Pennsylvania or not. I think I may just keep it home in Jersey for right now. Farm Tractor 1128 says, starting to grow an affection for Cub Cadets. I got a 1250 that I just restored and soon to get a 70. It's fun. Yeah, it's fun and it's addicting, to say the least. Damon says, I would go with a 6.7. I would love a 6.7, but I'm not looking to spend that kind of money. I want something that's old and simple. I've always had a thing for the first generation Super Duty trucks. Like I said, my uncle had one when I was a little kid, and I just remember riding in it with him, and they're good trucks. They got a good reputation, and they hold their value very, very well for being 20-ish years old now. Maybe someday I'll get a 6.7, but for now I'll just keep it simple. Get a 7.3. No emissions equipment, no nonsense, and probably cheaper to fix too, I would imagine. IDIs are good trucks too, but I want to go just a little bit newer. Yeah, ZF5 and 6s do seem to be bulletproof from what I've seen. See, in Kentucky, there's no plow days for garden tractors, only for big tractors. I can't find a garden tractor plow day in Tennessee or Ohio. There are a couple in Ohio. There's the one in Columbus. Well, it's considered Columbus, but it's really the town of Baltimore. which I think is just east of there. So that's usually like mid-October, early November. I was going to go out to that one last year, and then it got postponed, and I couldn't make it on that rain date. Howdy, howdy. West Pandy would love your John Deere collection. I think so. I would like to meet that guy someday. I've been past his farm many times. He's up in like central to north New Jersey. I'm from South Jersey, but I've passed right through there many, many times, especially for work, making deliveries and things like that. I've passed right by there. So I would like to meet the guy someday. I actually, years ago, he was going through his antique tractor buying phase. He was looking for a 60. Well, he has two of them now, but he was looking for a John Deere 60, and I actually offered to sell him my grandfather's 60, which was one of the stupidest things I could have ever done, and I'm glad it didn't go through. But I've talked to him from time to time, and I know a couple of our customers at work who, know him. They're from his area. Let's see. What's a good price range for a 318? It's kind of a vague question. It depends on the year, the hours, any attachments it comes with. And the values are all over the place. I mean, I remember back in 2012 when I started on YouTube, 318s were worth gold. You couldn't touch one for under $2,000. And that's the one I wanted to buy originally, but back then they were just worth so much money. I bought them for as low as $400, and this one I paid $1,500 for, with a 46-inch deck, a 54-inch power angle blade, a set of chains, a set of wheel weights, and a spare engine block. So it just goes to show prices are all over the place. You know where I can find a good deal on a 3-point for the 425? I'm not sure if you're on Facebook. I would check some of the John Deere garden tractor groups on Facebook. I think I saw one today for a 425 that was listed. I can't remember the details though. Either that or Ruegg Manufacturing. He builds really good quality aftermarket 3-point hitches, and they're very, very well built. You'll pay up for a little, you'll pay up for them, but it's good quality. How many tractors do you still have over in Jersey? The 210 is sitting at my grandparents' house, and then the Ford 4000 and the John Deere 60 are still sitting on my uncle's farm. I'm planning to bring the 60 up here eventually once I get some of these projects back here done and out. Hey, Aunt Maria, thanks for watching. What do you think of a Toro Wheelhorse 1538 lawn tractor? I can't say I've ever seen one, honestly. I'm not familiar with those late model wheel horses. I just know the garden tractors, and at that, I mean, my knowledge of those is pretty limited. We have a Cub Cadet original in the upper level of our barn that I want to get running. Those originals are good tractors. I would like to own one someday. I actually know where a 62 5-digit original is. It was sold new at the dealership where I work. Hoover Inc. It used to be called CB Hoover and Son. I know of a tractor, an original that was sold there brand new. It still has the original CB Hoover sticker on it, and it never traveled more than 5 miles from the store. So someday I would like to buy it back. 6.0 with over 250,000 miles. Those 6.0s can be good engines. I mean, they do. From what I've seen, you can build them up into a good engine. My uncle has a 6.0 now. He had a 6.4 or a 7.3. He wishes he still had the 7.3, but I think the 6.0s can be built into a decent, reliable engine. The trick is to actually run them hard. Guys are easy on them. The trick is to really put them to work, because somehow they hold up better when you're hard on them. Hey, Dean, how's it going? Everything is going pretty good here, I think. Scott just bought a 318 in March with only 894 hours for $1,100. I think he did pretty good. He lost a tractor to a fire. Yeah, I saw that 7410 burned up. I remember back when his old 4960 burned up, and he was able to bring that one back, but that fire was not anywhere near as bad as this one. Guy can fix a tractor, though, that's for sure. I have a John Deere 70 with a new idea corn picker and a John Deere 80. It's pretty neat. You don't see a whole lot of those 80s. Howdy, Florida. Hey Jerry, things have been going all right. We're getting by. I think the house can be saved though, so I'm not too concerned. I really feel for my neighbors that lost everything because some of those houses just crumbled like nothing. So I think in the grand scheme of things, my parents made out very well. What would you recommend for camera equipment? I don't know. Yeah, I had I bought a GoPro Hero 8. Was it an 8? Yeah, it was an 8. And I got like one or two uses out of it, and it crapped out. That video of the two 782s that I made back in March, that was the only video I shot with it. Then afterwards, I think the battery died, and I put a new battery in it, and it wouldn't start or wouldn't turn on, even if I charged it up. So I actually I took the Hero 8 back to the store, and I got a Hero 7, which is a little bit cheaper. It doesn't have quite as many features, but it seems to be working fine. I shot a bunch of plow day videos with it this spring, but of course the videos are all on my hard drive on my desktop computer back in Jersey, and we don't have any power in the house right now, so of course I can't get on the computer. So otherwise I would have had the videos edited and posted by now. Can you guys hear me? Somebody's saying there's no signal. I'm going to take that as a yes. What is your opinion on muddying garden tractors? Are they any good? You talking like mud mowers? I don't know. I kind of have mixed opinions on those. If you're going to build a mud mower, do it with a cheap, like, Lowe's or Home Depot lawn tractor. Don't do it with an older garden tractor. They're built for abuse, but not that kind of abuse. Trust me, I've tried that. Found out the hard way. When you take a restored tractor out in the woods and go mudding with it and get it buried down to the axles in mud, you learn real quick. It's financially not a good thing to do. It adds up really quick. So needless to say, I've had to replace a lot of parts that I already replaced when I did the initial restoration. 318 prices seem to be pretty crazy. Non-running 87 for 1200. Yeah, they're all over the place. It's really, like I said before, it's a matter of condition, location, and attachments that they come with. My neighbor next door here wanted $2,000 for his, and it hasn't run in years. It's just been sitting out there. But supposedly had the engine rebuilt, and the 50-inch deck was just rebuilt and repainted. So, I mean, who knows? We'll see if his widow wants to sell it. Need to fix our 1066 International first. Not sure where you're at, Logan, but bring it on down here to Hoover's. They can fix it. We get a lot of those old 1066s and 706s and 1206s coming in. Plenty of them still being used out here in Amish country. The Amish guys love them because they're pretty much bulletproof. As long as the TA doesn't blow up. What's your opinion on the new 6.6 liter gas Chevy engine? I don't know anything about them. I haven't had any experience with them. I can't really say. Aiden asks, what are the other garden tractors you own? So back here I have the John Deere 318, the Cub Cadet 782, which is sitting on the other side of the H there, the Cub Cadet 2072, which is sitting over here. That's the ultra rare one of only 83 built. Then I have my John Deere 210 back home. Congrats on the 2038R there, Dean. That's pretty cool. A lot of guys seem to be buying them. I guess they're happy with them. It seems like guys are starting to get out of the 1 series and move up to the 2s from what I have seen. But I'm studying, the trends with all different brands. All right, I'm just catching up here. Farm tractor 1128 can't beat shaft drive. Yeah, that's right. You can't beat that Sunstrand hydro unit either. They're bulletproof. I mean, they're easily rated for 5,000 hours, but there's plenty of them that are still running. There's very few parts in those units that wear out. I mean, you get, seals go bad, gaskets go bad, O-rings go bad, but those units are pretty much bulletproof. John Deere 70 and 80, International 1066 and 70 hydro, and a Puma 140. Sounds like a pretty good fleet. John Deere A and an Oliver 1855. Yeah, that's definitely a good fleet. What would you recommend for a Cat 0 3-point plow? Just a typical Brindley. That's as far as 3-point plows go, Brindley is pretty much the only thing you're going to find. I mean, they made so many of them, and they're not as easy to find as sleeve hitch plows, but they are out there. I actually bid on one at auction a couple weeks ago, but they pop up from time to time. $2020 2500 with a 6.6 and it has power, but it's a pretty big gas hog. Yeah, I guess that's to be expected with a big block. Same goes with that new 7.3 Godzilla motor that they're putting in the Ford trucks. I hear the same thing. They run good, but I guess as you can expect, they're gas hogs. Over 60 garden tractors and probably 100 walk behinds. Man, I don't know how you keep track of everything, Corey. I really don't. I stress out about having these projects here behind me. I don't know how you manage having all those. I really don't know. Cole says, if I pull up on the clutch, I can get it to pick up speed. Both drive belts replaced and variator adjusted. Anything's to try. I would check the tensioner spring. So you have your drive belt system will have two springs. There's the primary spring, which is the big one, and then the secondary spring, which has hooks on either end, so you can't adjust it. But the primary spring hooks up to a little eyelet. You can probably I would probably tighten that up. It's supposed the dual drive belt systems on those tractors are designed to slow down when you put a load on it to keep the belt from smoking. But if it slows down noticeably to the point where it almost wants to stop, then you definitely need to adjust it. Also, I would double check that take the belts off the variator shaft and make sure that the sliding sheave doesn't have any play in it when it tries to pivot. What happens is that surface wears over time and the sheave gets kind of cockeyed sitting in there, and then it jams up. So what I do is just take a little Q-tip or something and dab a light layer of grease on the inside of that sheave. That way it can slide without binding up. I agree, Jerry. I think Deere was really trying to push people to jump from the X700 series to the 1 series, and now I feel like they're trying to push people into the 2 series. But I'd be curious to try one. We sell Kubota tractors where I work, so it's good to be able to see the ins and outs of all the different brands, because compact tractors are just, it seems like everybody wants a piece of that market now. I was up at Penn State Ag Progress Days back in August, and it's just amazing to see how many manufacturers are out there. Bobcat's making compact tractors now. You've got Coyote, you got LS, you got Branson, which a lot of those are built by the same manufacturer in Korea. You got the Case IH Farmall series. There's a lot of different brands out there. Everybody wants a piece of that market. Should have bought my Mint 782D. Wow, you made out like a bandit. I missed out on one for $500 down in Maryland a couple months ago, and I knew it was going to sell quick, but I also knew that it wouldn't do me any good to buy it at that time. I just wasn't in a financial position for that, because that was right after I bought the H. John Deere A head gasket is leaking on the outside. The head is completely fine. New gasket too. Have you had the head milled or shaved at all, Bob? If the head's warped, like the tractor overheated at any point in the past, it could warp the surface and prevent the gasket from sealing properly. Yes, John Deere's hoods in that time period of the GT235 were just terrible. I mean, it's safe to say that John Deere has learned from their mistakes, but yeah, the plastic hoods on those late 90s, early 2000s models are a very sore subject. And unfortunately, I think that kind of ruined their reputation on the new models. But the new, and I've touched on this in my X570 review videos, the plastic hoods on those new models are 10 times better than what they used to be. Corey says, I don't even know what I have. Yeah, that's a sign that you're a real collector. 766 burned through a full tank of fuel in 4 hours. Yikes. Western Maryland, there's nothing on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. That surprises me. I mean, you can find, it seems like you can find pretty much anything on Marketplace these days. I mean, one piece of advice I ought to give is you shouldn't be afraid to travel. I know we all have our constraints as far as wanting to buy tractors, but you just have to be willing to get out there and drive a little bit. I bought that H there. You see that H in upstate New York, which was 8 hours one way. Now, of course, that was an impulse buy. I put a bid on it and didn't even realize where it was. I just saw that it was in New York, but I didn't realize that it was this close from Canada. So that was a mistake on my part, but it made for a good little road trip. So, but my point is, you can't be afraid to travel. You know, sometimes you just got to go where the deals are. Almost to a stop still. Also, when going up a hill, it almost feels like the clutch gets sucked down when putting a load on it. I wonder if, did you say you put new belts on that? I can't remember. I live in Iowa and drove 11 hours in a snowstorm to pick it up. Man, that's dedication. Do you like flathead Briggs motors? I can't say I'm a Briggs & Stratton fan, but the old Briggs were pretty tough engines. I mean, at one point, they had the small engine market tied up. They were in pretty much everything. As a matter of fact, actually, I was back in New Jersey this weekend. There's a collector who lives in my area. He's an Alice Chalmers garden tractor guy, so he's got a bunch of the old B series, B110s and B112s and B12s and all that. And they've all got the old flathead Briggs in them, and they run pretty good. Can't kill them. Hey, Harrison, how's it going? Things are going pretty good. Crazy, busy, but going well. Nice to hear from you. Hard for me to find one that had half-decent plastic. One design flaw, the grill melts because it's too close to the muffler. Yeah, that's... John Deere was kind of experimenting with the plastic body panels at that time, and like I said, they've definitely improved after years and years of mistakes and angry customers. But yeah, and for what the 425, 445, and 455 cost, I think they should have come with something a little more substantial for a hood. The one thing I don't like about this series is how the side panels and hood are all separate. I would rather have like a newer X400 or X500 series where it's all one piece. I actually one time, just out of boredom, I priced out all the new replacement panels for like a 425 or 445. I priced out those panels versus the cost of a whole replacement hood for like an X495 or X595 series, and the prices are pretty much identical, which is interesting. Got a newer LX, and that thing cuts my grass great. Those are good tractors. I wouldn't mind having another one, but they are a little light duty for the kind of things I do. It would be just a lawnmower, nothing else. Transmissions into Chevys are very bad and jerky. Yeah, if you're not running the Allison automatic, I mean, they're so. I run at work, one of the main trucks that I drive for making deliveries is a 2015 3/4 ton with the 6-liter in it, and it runs good. It pulls good, but the transmission, I mean, it doesn't seem to know what gear it wants to be in half the time. I guess that's to be expected with an automatic, which is basically the reason I want to go to a manual for the next truck. Cole, it might be that spring is just worn out from years and years of use. You may just have to go to John Deere and buy a new spring. Two John Deere A's, John Deere B, 40, 430, F12, Farmall H, Massey Ferguson 97. That's a good collection. Wow. Yeah, the people seem to think that they can tamper with those key switches. They are pretty easy to mess up the wiring on, but I mean, I don't understand why people try to steal something so small and minor like a garden tractor. I really don't get it. Probably because they're easier to move, but hope you can get that wiring figured out. I think the earlier 316 Onins had the 6-prong key switch, and then they switched to 5. I have, Harrison. There are plans for plow day in the works, but nothing is set in stone yet. The guys, as you might remember, the guys that were running it stepped down, and there's a couple new guys that are supposedly taking it over and trying to make plans. But the issue is with the amount of people that were there at the event, the nightmare they had to go through to get insurance was just, it's a lot. It becomes just a huge liability at that point. And I think that's, from what I understand, that's one of the big deciding factors. It's just a big risk. You take a big risk because now it's become such a huge event. You get guys coming from all over the country, and when you've got several hundred people at this one event, you got to be insured because in this day and age, people sue you for the smallest thing. Whatever happened to your X Series machine? Did it end up being a good machine? Oh yeah, we still got it. It's back in Jersey. It's been a good machine. I can't complain. I just mowed the lawn with it this past weekend. I don't know if you saw the last video I just posted yesterday. We still, it still mows the lawn pretty much every week. It's coming up on 600 hours. It's been a good machine. '74 Cub Cadet 129, which is a beast. I had a '74 129 also. Oh, yeah. Yep. How many vintage tractors do you have? 4 garden tractors and 4 farm tractors. So my two of the 4 farm tractors are right here behind me. I have my 1941 John Deere H and my 1979 International Cub. And then back home in New Jersey, I've got the 69 Ford 4000 and the 54 John Deere 60. And as my luck would have it, none of them run right now. What would cause my 97 GT275 to shut off when I turn the throttle up after running for a few minutes? I'm going to guess the carburetor problem. It's probably just had old fuel in it. Could be a bunch of different things, though. Those Kawasaki's are very cold-blooded engines, though. They don't like to be put under a load too quick. So if you rev it up really slow. 2 210s, a 317, and a 6211 Simplicity. Good fleet. Because the way the transmission is set up, they couldn't figure it out. What do you recommend to do for a carb on an LX280 and types of light cleaning? I mean, in my opinion, if you're going to go to all the trouble to take a carburetor off and clean it out, you might as well just do it the right way once and be done with it, because it's very easy to, you can clean a carburetor as many times as you want, but if you get one little speck of dirt in there, there's one little piece that you miss, it's it's going to act up again. It's not going to run the way you want it to. So what I would recommend is invest in an ultrasonic cleaner or take it to a shop that has one. Soak it in an ultrasonic cleaner for maybe an hour, half hour, or whatever, just enough to break loose all of the sediment, and then blow it out with compressed air, with a very fine tip nozzle on your air compressor, and at the same time spray it down with carb cleaner. That way you're getting everything out. Because like I said, if you get one little speck of dirt in that carburetor, it'll throw everything off. 79 last year of the Cub. Yep. That one there is the 520th to last one built. So it came in on trade at work a few months ago, and I thought it was pretty cool because not only do you not see a lot of last year Cubs, you don't see a lot of them that are white and yellow. It was my understanding that most of them from 79 were red with the long stripe, but I'm a fan of the white and yellow, so I figured why not bring it home. What's your opinion on the V4 mode in the Chevy? I couldn't tell you, honestly. Never experienced it. Never had a truck that had that, or never ran a truck that had that option. Did you get a chance to watch my slideshow on the Steam show? Not yet, but I will. It's on my list. I was thinking carburetor, but yeah, it sounds like a carb problem to me. Just speculating, but I'm just being an armchair mechanic right now, sitting at my computer. So it's hard to know for sure without being there in person. Hey, no problem. Glad to help. I mean, one thing I should mention, guys, is I'm just kind of speaking from my own experience. Everybody has different experiences. Everybody was brought up differently. There's guys out there, I'm sure there's probably guys watching this video that have forgotten way more than I will ever know about garden tractors or engines. But I'm just kind of going off of what I've learned in my, couple years of doing this. So basically what I'm trying to say is don't take everything that I say as gospel, because I'm just another Joe Schmo, really. Would you ever buy an IDI? Yeah, probably, as long as it wasn't rusted out. But it would probably be like an around-town beater truck, like a parts getter truck or a farm truck. And it would have to be a manual transmission, no automatics. The amount of info I have on old farm equipment and tractors is a little bit worrying. Hey, nothing wrong with that. Huge restoration project on a Snapper zero turn coming up. Sounds like a good project. Is that one of the old ones? I think some of the old Snappers and Toros had Onan engines in them, which is kind of an interesting concept for a zero-turn mower. It's not one of those units, is it? Uh, 26 viewers. Hey, thanks for tuning in, guys. I really appreciate it. I don't really have anywhere else to be, so I figure we can keep going for a while yet. I made sure to clear my schedule tonight, so any questions you might have, ask away. Like I said, I can't move the laptop around too much to show anything specific, but I can I guess I can turn it a little bit if there's anything you want to see, but nothing's really changed since the last time I made a shop tour video. Scrolling through. It's funny enough, I just got a 2N going, been brush hogging all week. Those old N-Series Fords are pretty good tractors. They were pretty popular back in their day. We actually, at work, we have a 9N sitting on the lot that was traded in. They're good tractors. They're kind of primitive compared to what we have today, but they were good back in the day, and there's plenty of guys that are still running them. They make really good brush hog tractors. What would make my John Deere B shut off every 5 minutes? Could be a fuel issue. Could be, coil gets too hot. Could be the wrong coil. I mean, there's could be a sticking valve. Could be a lot of different things. Well, it's hard to give a definite answer, Dean. I try not to get too political, especially in my videos. But all I'm going to say is it's not looking good. I'm going to leave it at that. before we know, and I've been saying this for a while now. Before we know it, we're going to be making our own gasoline. Mark my words. I'm just going to leave it at that. I saw your video, Damon. That's a pretty good pull for an 8N. Yeah, Grandpa's original Cub Cadet running because it was the first garden tractor we ever had on the farm. Yeah, definitely hang on to that. That's a keeper for sure. Like I said before, I would love to have an original. Right now I have absolutely no use for one. It would just be like a space waster. But if I can buy this one that I know, from work, that would be pretty cool to have. Yeah, pulling's a lot of fun. It can get expensive though once you start breaking stuff, but it's addicting. I don't know if you remember, Damon. I pulled the Cub at IH. I guess it was IH days, or I tried to pull it, I should say, and that was a miserable failure. It stalled out in second gear and it stalled out in first gear, wide open throttle. So it just goes to show you how gutless that little C60 engine is. They were definitely not designed to pull, but I figured, what the heck, it would just be for fun. So. Corporate is closing our used parts store in a couple of weeks and consolidating everything to the main shop up the road. Well, I mean, that's it's hard to avoid when corporate steps in, Got to consolidate. Saw an 8N go 20 feet on a pole and then grenade its engine. Yeah, that's no fun. Back in Jersey a couple years ago, there was I have to remember, I think it was a TO20 Ferguson, which is basically the massive equivalent of like a 9N or 8N. It was all restored. Like they had just recently finished restoring it and rebuilding the engine, and it cracked the bell housing right behind where, it mounts up to the engine. So the whole tractor was basically junk. The thing was sitting there like this. The tractor was literally split in half. And once that happens, there is no saving it. So I feel bad for the guy that did all that work to it. Dig Drive DIY, he pulled 38,000 pounds. I think he pulled his dump truck in that video. Am I right? I'm subscribed to him, but I don't know if I tuned into that video or not. I honestly don't remember. I have so many subscriptions to follow up on. I don't get the chance to watch them all. But yeah, it's impressive what those little tractors can pull. I mean, like we were saying before, the hydro units in these things here are pretty much bulletproof. The Peerless units and the actually going back even further, the hydro gear hydro pumps that were used in the early hydrostatic tractors, like the 140, the early 140s, those were rated for like aircraft use. So that just goes to show you how well built they are. And like I said, there's very little to go wrong with them. The hydro pumps are bulletproof, and the rear ends are bulletproof too. I mean, they had, like Cub Cadet had their cast iron 3-speed rear; those were bulletproof. John Deere had the Dana rear ends; those were bulletproof. Dana obviously has a good reputation. And then Peerless, John Deere got with Peerless Tecumseh on the hydro or the differentials that went into these tractors, and John Deere actually had the patent on that rear end for a couple years before they were allowed to, or before other manufacturers were allowed to use it. So I guess after the patent ran out, then Simplicity, who was building, Alice Chalmers and Deutz Alice at the time, took them up on that, and they started putting those same units in their tractors. I mean, guys have their opinions on the John Deere hydros versus the Wheel Horse hydros versus Cub Cadet hydros, or just the rears in general. They're all pretty much bulletproof. They've all got a couple little issues here and there, but they're hard to kill. We can all agree that they're all better than the tough torque T40s and K46s that they put in the new Lowe's and Home Depot models, because those are junk. Absolute junk. Just saw your video of you driving a Case Farmall 95A. Yeah, those Farmall series are pretty popular sellers. We get a lot of customers that like buying them. They're pretty much a premium utility tractor, and a lot of guys like them because they actually don't use DPFs. Case IH was able to design a system. They have the FPT engines, which are Fiat. It's Fiat powertrain technology. And they were able to design an engine that does not require the use of a DPF because that's how clean they burn. They do use the SCR system, which is the DEF. They have the DEF tank, but there's no DPF. So a lot of guys like to buy them for that reason. I don't think there's any other manufacturers that build tractors that size that don't have a DPF. Yeah, I do remember when you pulled the Power King, Damon. Those are neat tractors. I'd like to buy one someday, but I can't say that I've ever seen one aside from shows. I think I know of one, but the guy won't sell it. You just don't see him anymore. I have a 1972 Mack DM 6x6. Pretty cool. Don't see a lot of 6x6 DMs or R models anymore. Lost the front U-joint, drive shaft rolled under the oh, man. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Hope you're able to get that thing patched up and running again. That sucks. Just parts are out there for them trucks, though. I mean, they made thousands and thousands of those, R model, U model DMs. So parts are out there. I'll think about it, Damon. Like I said, I don't really need to bring another tractor home. I've got enough as it is right now, and I have enough projects in limbo. K46 junk. Yep. Can confirm. That's why I sold that LA 150 that I used to have. We got 7 years and 280 hours out of it, and I could feel the hydro was just starting to get weak, so I said it's time to let it go. Making YouTube great again. Hello. Thanks for tuning in. Ask away, guys. Any questions you might have, or anything anything you might be curious about, within reason, of course. 20 tractors. Jeez, that's pretty impressive, I gotta say. Neighbor blew the trains on his old Husqvarna with the K57. Ended up buying a new X390 last month. Hey, I think you made the right decision. Husqvarna doesn't build a bad machine, but I mean, they're only so good. You can't go wrong with an X Series Deere. I think I'm a member of that Power King group, actually. I joined a couple years ago just to kind of educate myself on those tractors, but I haven't, obviously I haven't really involved myself with them. Plans for the future. Oh, well, that's a loaded question. Well, it all comes down to where I end up living. So I'll be here for, I don't know, maybe the next decade or so. And my eventual goal is to buy like a small piece of farmland, maybe 10, 15 acres, 20 acres, do a little hobby farming on the side, and put up a nice big pole barn so I can store all my projects. But that'll come. I'm not in any rush for that. It would be nice to have a little bit more space to fit more tractors in, but I just have to be careful with how I shuffle around, and I just have to be careful with what I buy because it's very easy. As you've probably seen from my videos in the past, it's very, very easy for me to find a good deal, fall on a good deal, and bring it home unexpectedly. That H is a good example. I actually keep a list of. I keep a lot of lists if you haven't figured that out already. I'm keeping a list of tractors and vehicles that I would like to have in the future. So, actually, let me pull it up here. I don't think you guys will be able to see it on my end or on your end of the live stream, but let me pull it up here. I'll just read off a couple of the models that I would like to acquire eventually. I keep a Google Doc with all this stuff listed. Let's see, future tractor collection. Google Drive's being a little slow. All right, let's see. So on my list for farm tractors, I like to get a Farmall AV because my grandfather had one, and I actually just happened to come across it again this past weekend. I know where it's at, and I'd like to buy it back. Everybody knows what a Farmall A is, but the AVs are a little less common. They're the vegetable version or high crop version, and in New Jersey, where I'm from, it's vegetable country, so everybody uses high crop or high clearance tractors, and pretty much every farmer in South Jersey has a Farmall AV or 140 high crop. There's some multi-million-dollar farming operations in the area that are still running AVs and 140s. And actually, as a matter of fact, back during World War II, my great-grandfather, who was stubborn, stuck in his way, old school Italian, he grew up with horses. He wanted to stick to horses. My grandfather convinced him to switch over to tractors, and when he finally did switch, the very first tractor he bought was a Farmall AV, and I have the original, not the bill of sale, but the original title for that tractor because he used to title his equipment to run up and down the road. I have the original title for that tractor. Actually, I guess that would have been the second one because he bought his first AV during World War II, then he wore it out and he bought another one, and I have the title for the second one. So those old IH tractors go back a pretty long way in my family. I would like to find an AV or buy my grandfather's AV back someday. So that's one tractor I like to have. John Deere 720 diesel 2-cylinder. They're a very popular model. I'd like to find one with a pony starting engine, just because they're kind of unique. They're expensive to fix, but if you find one that's been well maintained, they're pretty neat. And you can't beat the sound of a 2-cylinder diesel. There are very few things. I should say there are very few sounds that are better than a 2-cylinder diesel. Someday I'd like to buy one of my uncle's Ford 445 loader tractors. I grew up on them. I cut my teeth on those tractors. They're pretty much the toughest tractors I've ever used, and we've put them through their paces doing farm work, landscaping, construction, all different kinds of jobs, and they take a beating and they keep on running. My uncle has owned 3 of them over the years, and actually no, 4 because he had a 340B when he first started, but we've beat the crap out of them and they just don't die. So that's a testament to how tough those old Ford diesels are. And also another farm tractor I'd like to buy is my grandfather's old John Deere 520 vegetable tractor that actually lives here in Lancaster County. I've sent a few emails back and forth with the current owner. I was able to track it down after finding some old documents and searching the serial number, and it lives not far from here in Lancaster County. So someday, God willing, when he's finally ready to sell it, I'm planning to buy it back. That tractor, I think he sold it probably 25 or 30 years ago, and I was afraid for years that it had been junked or parted out, but it's I won't spoil it. I'll save that for a future YouTube series someday. Out of all garden tractors, what would your favorite be? I'd probably have to say the 318 John Deere, just because I grew up on one, and they're about as tough as you can get. There's plenty of good garden tractors out there. I've owned a lot of good, reliable tractors, but the 318s always have a special place in my heart. And my uncle's old 318, the one with 5,000 hours on it and counting, which has now survived the tornado because it was under a lot of debris when the tornado hit and the roof collapsed on the building it was in. So that's another thing to add to the list of stuff that tractor has been through. That tractor is still running every week. So would you be interested in a Boland's diesel garden tractor? Maybe. You don't see them too often. I don't know enough about the Boland's tractors. I never really got into them. It might not be something, it might not be a bad idea to get into them one day, but that's just another addiction I don't need. I have a Farmall engine on my Bucyrus Erie drilling rig. I believe it's a 123, runs on propane. That's pretty cool. I know they put those C123 engines in a lot of power units, but nothing like a drilling rig. I didn't even know they could set them up to run on propane. That's pretty neat. I know back when my great aunt and uncle were farming years ago, they had a C60 engine, which is the engine in that Cub. They had that on a well irrigation pump. That's kind of neat. Higher end Husqvarnas are nice units. Yeah, I agree. I think they do build a decent tractor. What is going on here? I have a Dixon zero-turn mower, 30-inch. How do you like it? Minnesota, Oliver, and Deere. How's it going? What mower do you recommend for under $500? So are you looking for something just to mow grass, or are you looking for like a garden tractor? Because if you're looking for a mower, I'd probably go with an LX series John Deere, like a LX 176 or LX 188 or something like that. They're hard to beat for the price. Garden tractor, I'd probably go with like a Cub Cadet 82 series or like a John Deere 200 series or 300 series. There's a few models out there that can be bought for under $500. Did you go to Half Century of Progress show? I did not, but it is on my bucket list. I would like to get out there one of these years and bring a couple tractors out. It's definitely on my list. It looks like an amazing show. Has a water pump on it. From what I can tell, it's off of a hay baler. That's pretty neat. What'd you say about a 2155 versus a Ford 4000? Those 55 series Deeres were good tractors. They were built in Germany. The only issues I think guys really had with those was the drive lines. They had a dry clutch. They didn't run in oil, so as you can imagine, they wore through clutches pretty quickly. But those had I'm trying to remember what engine those had. I can't remember offhand, but they run pretty good. They're hard to beat. Assuming that the clutch is in good shape, of course. Compared to the 4000 though, the 4000s are tough. My grandfather's 4000 had over 10,000 hours before he retired it. Or actually, no, it had 10,000 hours before he rebuilt the engine and then ran it another couple thousand before it was finally retired. And everybody in my family talks about how tough that tractor was. I mean, that was one that they would go out and run it every single day. Whether they were plowing or disking or running a loader or forklift, that tractor was getting used every single day. And the fact that my grandfather hung on to it for all these years, the fact that we still have it is a testament to how tough it was. A lot of rare garden tractors. Yeah, it sounds like it definitely sounds like an event that I need to be at. One of these years I will make it out there. I need to get out more towards the Midwest. I've only been out there once, but I'm starting to, expand my horizons as far as shows go. All original 72 110 right to the drive belts. Yeah, pretty cool to have a nice original Survivor tractor. I would honestly take an original tractor over a restored one. Over to swap my tires over to a set of True Powers. Yeah, they're the True Powers and the Firestone 23s are about the best you can get. There's no comparison. You're going to pay a little more money for them, but they bite better than most tires out there. .93 cylinder. Yeah, I think you're right, Ryan. 6K, that's not bad with a loader and 4-wheel drive. But yeah, definitely keep your options open. I mean, the diesel Ford tractors are everywhere. I mean, at least in this part of the country, I should say. There's a lot of guys out here that are running them and have gotten, thousands of hours out of them. Their parts are starting to get a little harder to find for them, but I mean, the basic things like filters and engine parts you can still get through like a New Holland dealer. So they're good tractors to say the least. .110 round fender with 120 original hours parts in our barn. Wow. Talk about a barn find. I'd like to get a round fender 110 one of these days. I'd like to find a 63 or 64. That's easier said than done, but they are out there, especially in this part of the country. There were a lot of early 3-speed 110s shipped to the Northeast, and actually a lot of them are in New Jersey. I know a fellow down the road from where I grew up, he had 4 of them, 63s, and another one surfaced about a year ago, and I just narrowly missed it. But that one's living out here in Pennsylvania, not far from me now, so I know where that one got to. But they're out there. The thing is, though, if I buy a 63 110, I probably wouldn't want to use it because all the parts on that are more or less specific to a 63, and those fiberglass fenders are like gold, so you don't want to break them. Uh, 63 or 64 110 is on my list of garden tractors to buy. I'm actually looking through my list here. I'd also like to get my hands on a 317 with the Onan repower engine and Brantley power steering, maybe. I know if any of you guys watch Mr. Beef or MMR Beef on YouTube, he picked up one a few months ago. I'm actually kind of jealous. I would like to find one with the Onan and the Brantley kit. The Brantley kits are hard to find. If I was closer to him, I would definitely consider buying it off of him. I'd also like to get my hands on a 120 or 140 H3 patio. Just not that I need one, but I like the way that they look. And the 120 and 140 are such a classic, iconic, collectible machine too. An earlier X series like an X495, X595, or even like an X740 or X748. I want to get my hands on one of those too. It would be nice to have a modern super garden tractor with all the bells and whistles. I like the first generation X series because they're more or less the same tractor as a later X series with a couple differences and with a much lower price tag. So, and it seems like the X495s and X595s are really getting to be pretty affordable now. So, if I do end up buying one, I'll probably get one of those models. If not that, maybe a compact like a 655 or 755. Those are good tractors as well. A 582, I would like to get a Cub Cadet 582. I've had this vision in my head of building one into a pulling tractor with an Onan engine, of course. I'd have to get rid of the Briggs and scrap iron engine, but I kind of had this idea from the get-go. Custom build a 582, put the Onan engine in it, 3-puck or 2-puck clutch, the heavy duty clutch with the heavy duty spring and all that, cast iron rear swap, the whole 9 yards. Someday when I decide to, really get into competitive garden tractor pulling, I may go that route. Out here in Pennsylvania, the Cub Cadet parts are everywhere, and I live not too far from a big Cub Cadet salvage yard. I'd like to find another Cub Cadet diesel, like I mentioned early on, 1512 or maybe if I get lucky, a super diesel like a 1572 or 1772. Cub Cadet original, as I mentioned, a Ford LGT 18 Hydro with the 18 horse Kohler Magnum. I think they're such a cool looking tractor. And then eventually someday, don't get your hopes up, Joe. I know you're watching. The 18 horsepower Simplicity or Deutz Alice tractors, the Sunstar or the 1918. Basically the competitor to like a 318 or 782. They're a pretty good tractor. They built a good tractor, so someday I'd like to have one. Pristine 64 with headlights and tail light. I'm pretty jealous, Billy, I gotta say. Kyle, 318 with a plow. Are you talking about a snow plow or like a moldboard plow? Because I mentioned earlier, my next door neighbor, 50 feet away, actually has one sitting in his driveway. I'm sure he just passed away a few weeks ago, but I'm sure his widow is probably going to want to get rid of it. So I mean, that one may be up for grabs. I never bought it because I didn't feel like bringing another project in with all the other stuff that I've already got going on. 66 112 hydraulic lift. I know where a couple of those are. We're going to get 3 patios. Oh, yeah, that's... are those the ones that were sitting in the weeds, Corey? Bucyrus Erie 20W was built in 49. The Cub has run on LP since new. Has to have 1 million+ hours with 2 rebuilds. That's awesome. That's a testament to how well those little engines run. I have a video from 2018 from Gerhardt's Mac Day show over here in Lidditz, Pennsylvania. There's a Bucyrus Erie crane in that. I think they had a drag line on it. They were loading, or it was a shovel actually. They were loading trucks with it. They have like a sandbox area where they play with all the old machines, and they had a Bucyrus Erie unit there. That was pretty cool to see that in action. Those were the machines that basically built this country back in the 50s and 60s. GT 2100. Yeah, that's a good start. 318s are out there. I mean, just check your local Craigslist, eBay, Facebook Marketplace. Actually, I would probably look at a 316. It's like a 318, just a little cheaper and a little bit watered down. I saw a 582 pull tractor at a show the other day. It was slick. Yeah, there a lot of guys like using them 582s for pullers. 30x50 bank barn with a 30x40 machine shed built off the back. Man, that's what I need. That's exactly what I need. Yeah, there's, as far as like good quality garden tractors go in this day and age, they're few and far in between. You got to really pay up if you want something that'll last. And even, like the new X700 series, they're good. Don't get me wrong. A lot of guys like them, but they're cheapening them up and they're making them lighter and lighter compared to the previous generations. You really got to pay up if you want something decent. But I mean, Deere, Simplicity, Kubota, they all build a decent garden tractor, in my opinion. What's your opinion on the lawn boy mowers? They're, how do I put it? They're like the Mack trucks of walk-behind mowers, I think. They're built, they're bulletproof. I have a good friend of mine collects them. He's collected them for years, and I actually had one for a little while. It was a 78 model. They're, back in the day, everybody had one. Before Honda really took over, before the market was flooded with Honda walk-behind equipment, they were cream of the crop, and those little 2-stroke engines are bulletproof. Like I said, I had one for a little while. I ended up giving it back to my friend that I got it off of, but someday I might look at another one, getting another one. Carnegie Mastworks USS Steel. Wow, how about that? Must have come out of Pennsylvania then. Yeah, I guess so if it's Bucyrus Erie. Have to get a 318. I'll have to rebuild one of them twin-cylinder engines. I highly recommend it. The opposed twin, flathead engines are pretty simple to work on. There's really not a whole lot to them, and they're very simplistic, I guess that's the best way to put it. And they're neat too. When you get them running just right and they run smooth, they sound really good. Hey, Levi. What are you guys all working on right now? What are your projects you got going on? Anything interesting? Hopefully something more interesting than what I've got here. International push mower built by Lawn Boy. Those are pretty cool. They're hard to find. They're getting hard to find. They made mowers for deer too for a little while. '69 wheel horse barn find needs all new wiring. Oh, that sounds like a nightmare. Wiring is not one of my favorite things to do. I'll keep an eye out for you, Levi. That's kind of a you're trying to find hen's teeth there. I mean, they are out there, but there's not a whole lot of guys that are parting out 330s and 332s. If any of you guys watching happen to have a 330 or 332 you're parting out, by some chance, Levi is looking for a set of side panels. Suzuki 250 Quad Racer, 250 two-stroke Sport. Sounds like fun. If I had more land, I'd invest in an ATV or an ATC, three-wheeler. Might be trading the O for an Alice 920 diesel. Oh, you lucky. That's a pretty nice O. I gotta say, it's a nice original. Sounds like a good project there, Ryan. I have a little Lincoln tombstone welder, just like a little stick welder, but I would like to get a gas-powered MIG welder, like with an Onan or a Magnum engine or something. They just, it's so cool to be able to run one of those, and they sound good too. 6,500 hours on a Kohler V-twin. That's pretty much unheard of, man. You might want to go buy a lottery ticket. Tracked down an IH Red Cup Cadet. I think it was a 782. It's one of the big ones. If you can get a good deal on it, then buy it for sure. Dylan asks, aren't they the same as a 316 or 318? They are not. All of the 300 series models have different side panels. So the 316 and 318 use the same side panels with the screens at the back, like you see here. But wrong side. Like you see there. So the 316 and 318 use these side panels. The 322 side panels have the screen at the front instead of the back, and then the 330 and 332 side panels have no screens. They're just solid. And those happen to be the hardest to find. 1066 International and a Chevy K30. Sounds like some good projects. And a Dodge Challenger. I bet that CCKB sounds pretty good when you're laying a bead of weld. Levi, you better get that A running. It's been collecting dust back there long enough. $950. Does it come with any attachments? That's I guess it depends on what part of the country you live in, but just to give you an idea, I mean, around here you'd be looking to pay like $500 to $700 for a red 782, a true IH built 782. But like I said, the Cub Cadets are more common in certain parts of the country and not others. So I'm just curious. 332 that had a turbo. Sounds like a beast. Yeah, Levi, I was wondering that too, wondering if maybe it was a 982. If it is a 982, then $950 is actually a pretty good deal. One of my coworkers had a 982, a red 982 with the Onan engine out of it. Great. He was looking to sell. He's down in Maryland. I have to double check and see if he still has it. He may have sold it. I'm not sure. Yeah, Minnesota, if it's a 982, then you better jump on it for that price because you don't see them come up that cheap ever, especially if it's a red one. John Deere two-cylinder tractors always have a spot in my heart. Yeah, them old two-cylinders, there's something about them, that's for sure. They're different, but I like all old tractors. I mean, I'm not biased. I grew up with the blue tractors, the green tractors. Like I said, my family history goes all the way back to IH tractors. So, and when my grandfather was farming, he wasn't biased. I mean, he had pretty much every brand. So he had the first tractor he bought was a John Deere A, which he traded in on the 60 that we still have. Then he bought a Farmall AV, and then that one burned up a few years later. So it was a Super AV that burned up. He bought a used AV to replace it. Then he had the 4000, which was one of the only vehicles he ever bought new. Two Alice Chalmers Gs for cultivating. Those are the tractors that have the engine in the back. Minneapolis Moline M670 and M602, which were both junk. And Massey Ferguson 1130, which I actually know where it is still. I'm trying to see if I'm trying to connect a friend of mine with the guy to see if he can buy it. Those pony engines are something else. It's really neat to see or to think back to how technology was back then, like the state that people were living in, and to think that guys were using a small gas engine to start their big diesel engine because electric starting just it hadn't become a thing yet. Caterpillar and actually IH initiated that. They were the first ones to use those pony engines, and then the story I got is that John Deere and Caterpillar actually worked together to design the pony engines that went on the two-cylinder diesels. But it's such a neat concept. I don't know if any of you guys watch Squatch 253. He's definitely one of my favorite YouTube channels. He's very, very knowledgeable on those old cats, and see those old D2s and RD6s and whatnot with the pony engines. It's just something about them. I don't know what it is, and I feel like I need to have one, even though I have no space to put one and I have no land to tear up with it. That would be something to add to my wish list. Just a little D2 or RD6 or something someday. Multicolored collectors, as the old timers would say. Yep, you got that right, Corey. You can't be too biased. Actually, Corey, you were asking earlier about life goals, but now that we've mentioned it, one of my goals is to be able to own at least one of every tractor that my grandfather had. So I just named off all the tractors he had, and I know where. So I have two of them now. I know where four more of them are, and then there's a couple more that just got lost in the mix. I don't know whatever happened to him, but my goal is to eventually be able to own one of every model that he had if I can't find all the ones that were originally his. But like I said, I know where the AV is, the 520, the 1130 Massey, and then the 670 Moline. I know where all those tractors got to. So someday, space and money permitting, I'd like to buy them all back, but I guess I can dream. Yeah, Levi, next time I'm down there, I got to see that H. You picked that thing up for a pretty good deal, I got to say, and I'm kind of jealous. It's funny, we both have 1941 H's, except one's green and one's red. John Deere 80 with a pony motor. She pulls a 22-foot disc with no problems. Yeah, those big, heavy 2-cylinder diesels were tough. That was big horsepower back in the day. Squatchy's not far from me. I've talked to him at a show for a while. That's neat. He seems like a really decent guy. It's a shame I'm not closer to, that area. I would love to meet him someday. I doubt he watches this channel because he doesn't do anything with John Deere. But maybe someday. I don't know. Yeah, you could get an electric start option. Electric start was an option on the later 2-cylinder diesels, but it wasn't in that time period, way back when. It just wasn't very reliable, at least on the Deeres anyway. Having such a complex electrical system to start one of those big, high compression 2-cylinders was not ideal. And the nice thing with a pony engine is you can preheat the coolant and the oil, so that makes for much easier starting anyway. But the problem is kind of like basically the same situation with the engines you see in the Onan engines and the Kohler Magnum engines. Guys don't take care of them, so they would wear out, and then they're expensive to rebuild. Thinking about buying a 314 with a 3-point nag tires for $400. Putting a Mag 20 into it is $400 a good deal. Yeah, that's a steal. If it's a factory 3-point, the 3-point hitches alone for those closed frame 300 series go for that money alone. It might take some work to get the Mag 20 to fit in it, but I think if you find the mounting cradle from a 317, because the 314 and 317 were basically more or less the same tractor, just different engines, and of course the 317 has a few extra features. But if you find the mounting cradle from a 317, it should bolt right in. At least I would think. Might need a drive shaft from a 317 too. You're going to need a bigger building. Yeah. Grandfather had a 5020 I'd love to find. My dream tractor. Those were tough machines. We never had anything that big on the farm. The biggest tractor we had was a 1130 Massey, which is like the equivalent of I guess like a John Deere 4320 or something in that range. It's like 95 horsepower, I think. That was, I think, at least from what I've heard from my family members, it was a pretty good tractor overall. And that was one of the few tractors that still ran when my grandfather sold it. Kenny Kizzle, I watch him too. I'm actually friends with him on Facebook too. He's a good guy, real good guy. I like what he did with that H suicide memorial restoration. One Lonely Farmer still got those 112 rims. Jeez, I thought he got rid of those years ago. I may have to stop over there someday and someday when I'm making deliveries up that way and pick them up for you. Like I said, I've been past his farm many times. I know right where he's at. I just, obviously I'm not going to stop in because I know he doesn't take very kindly to visitors. But I like watching his channel because it's just nice to be able to hear from somebody else who is a farmer in New Jersey or somebody who understands the struggles that farmers go through in New Jersey. Obviously, I don't farm. I come from a farming family, though, and I've heard a lot of a lot of the same complaints, the things that he talks about and rants about. It's, a lot of the farmers in the state and across the country are dealing with the same issues. Guys say that he complains a lot, and yeah, he does, but he has every right to, and he wants his voice to be heard. I mean, that's there's nothing wrong with that. It's nice to be able to watch videos from somebody that tells it like it is. $475 shipped for my. Oh yeah, yep. I was going to say Levi. That is the going rate, but I know exactly why. It looks like we've been going for an hour and 40 minutes. I think I'll cut it off at about 2 hours. So we can get a couple more minutes out. So, any other questions you guys might have, ask away. That's pretty cool. You're Minnesota. I know you're one of his moderators on his live streams too. That's that's quite the honor, I got to say. Yeah, that Logan, that Now Then show is pretty big from what I understand. I've seen lots of videos of it. Just out of curiosity, is anybody watching here from the truck side of things? I know we've talked mostly about tractors, but is anybody here from the truck side of my channel? I know I probably lost a lot of interest with the truck guys after the whole Peterbilt 359 mess, but that truck is still out there running. The guy's still making money with it every week, so it's doing exactly what its previous owner wanted it to do. It would have been cool to save that, hang on to that truck and keep it as a project, but Ryan had so many other projects going on at the time, and I was, busy in college too. Like I was, I didn't have time to work on a 359 on the weekends, in addition to working on all my own projects in the shop there. So it would have been a great project, don't get me wrong, but I just think it was the right deal at the wrong time. International 140 with a loader bucket. I can't say that I have. I know they made loaders for them, but a tractor that size, I know they weren't a very popular option. I've seen a few Cubs with loaders. They had that weird loader that only had one arm. I've seen a few of those, but I've never seen one on a or a 140. Ringer, do you have any lawn sweepers? Oh yeah, I'm crazy about lawn sweepers, man. Everybody got to have one. To be honest, though, I do have the one 44-inch John Deere lawn sweeper. It's really just an AgriFab painted green. We bought that with the X570, and it still gets used from time to time. But I prefer to just mulch the grass clippings. That was an awesome video. Yeah, I mean, honestly, I have a hard time going back to watch that 359 video now. Mostly just because I'm sick of responding to comments and dealing with all the haters on that video. But I mean, it's beside me now. It really doesn't matter. But that was neat though to have that opportunity, and the fact that it blew up the way it did, it was just definitely not what I had expected. I have a 316 Kohler, but it ain't worth fixing. No hydraulics, no engine, no transmission. Yeah, it sounds like you might just want to part it out. Yeah, that's what it is basically with one arm. Yeah, that's an interesting concept. I know International Harvester had some interesting designs, but I've seen a few of them around, but they're few and far in between. JCB, skid loaders now have the one arm boom, which is actually kind of neat. We saw those at work, and I always thought it was a neat concept. That 359 is how I found the channel. Yeah, I think a lot of people were drawn to the channel after that video. I do, for anybody wondering, I do plan to buy a project truck like that someday, like a 359 or a something in that model range. There's a truck repair shop right around the corner from my house. They have a 359 sitting out there in the yard, and it hasn't moved for a long time, so maybe something to consider for the future. Oh my God, the Pope of John Deere commented, "Are lawn sweepers a nice piece?" Yes, a nice piece for sure. Do you watch Oliver 66 Farm Boy? I've seen some of his videos, yeah. There's probably a lot of channels out there I should be watching that I just don't have time to. I have a hard time keeping up with my subscriptions as it is right now. I like to get an old R model Mack or a 9000 Ford. Yeah, me too. My dream truck is a Peterbilt 359, but they're, everybody thinks they're worth gold. The R model Macks are cheap, and they were built right, up the road here in Pennsylvania, and they're still running around making money. And the Ford L9000s and LTL 9000s were good trucks too. It's hard to find ones that aren't worn out though or rusted out. But my uncle used to run, my late uncle, who had the Peterbilt triaxle that I made videos of. Before he went on his own, he used to run. He ran an LTL 9000 pulling a tanker, and he ran an R model Mack pulling a tanker too for a couple different companies. And I would like to own one of each of those trucks someday, just in his memory. And they were tough. I mean, the old Louisvilles were tough. The old R models were tough. As a former 130 owner, essentially a 140, and I wouldn't want to try running a loader on that tractor. Yeah, I don't blame you. Those were good little tractors, but that is the last thing I would want to use one for. Michelle Braun asked, were you able to get an interview with the man who got the rescued Peterbilt? Unfortunately, no. He is not very big on social media. I think he's on Instagram, but I'm actually not on Instagram myself, just Facebook and YouTube. I sent him a message on Facebook probably a year and a half, actually probably closer to 2 years ago now, and he never even responded to it. So, I mean, I could keep trying, but at this point, I just don't know. He bought the truck knowing that it was famous and it had a lot of publicity behind it, but he kind of made it clear to us that he didn't really want to. He didn't want to keep the publicity going. I guess he was just kind of laid back. Wasn't big on all the fame. So, but it's. I just want everybody to know the truck is still running. He's still making money with it, and it's. Barry, who was the previous owner that passed away, I'm sure he's smiling down from heaven knowing that his truck is back on the road. So, another one will come along someday. I'll find another 359. Someday. Kenworth W900. Good trucks, hard to beat them. Bush lattes. Sounds good to me right about now. I could go for one. I need to get a little mini fridge to put out here in the shop, keep a couple beers in it. What's the overall plan on the 318? Basically, I'm just going to, I mentioned before, I need to pull the engine out to just kind of give it a freshen up, new seals, new gaskets, fix the flyball spacer, and I already did the oil pan and starter swap last year, so that's taken care of. But I'm just going to freshen it up. I honestly don't know what I'm going to do with it. I have it set up for snow duty right now, but it'll be converted into a mowing tractor. Once this time next year, I'll have the contract to mow the grass here at my house. I rent this house here. I don't own it, so my landlord had somebody else mowing the grass. But I'm going to get a 38-inch deck, a little two-blade deck to put on the 318, and I'll mow with that. It's got the 3-point hitch. I might put a rear PTO on it someday, just for the hell of it. Not that I really have a use for one, but it will be a plow day tractor. I just haven't had the opportunity to plow with it yet. I'm not ready to put it through its paces like that. It needs some work before it's ready for that. It's a good tractor. I like it, but if a nicer original 318 comes along, I would sell it, but only if a nicer, like a lower hour 318 comes along. Harmless farmer I've met, good guy. I used to watch his channel, not so much anymore, but it amazes me what he can do with no arms. He's quite the inspiration. Wish I could swap a 420 rear into a 314. Wouldn't be possible, I don't figure. Not without a lot of cutting and welding. It'd be easier, or you'd be better off swapping it into a 318 rear, or a 318 frame, because the hydros in the 318 and the 420 are more or less the same. It's just the 420 rear has diff lock and a 2-speed. But 314 would be a little bit of a challenge. So 12 hours disking at the farm with the 130 and a 5-foot disc the other week. That was a long day. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, you're not, with a 5-foot disc, you're not covering a whole lot of ground fast. We used to pull a 12-foot disc with the Ford 4000 back on the farm. But of course, we were also only growing like 400 acres of vegetables, so it wasn't compared to some of you Midwestern guys. I mean, this 400 acres is like nothing. But 400 acres of vegetables does require a lot of upkeep. I'll see you, Levi. Thanks for tuning in. It looks like we've been going for an hour and 50 minutes, so like I said, we'll go to 2 hours and then I'll cut it off there. So got another 10 minutes or so. .318 with the 350 Chevy. That's kind of neat. I don't know if you guys happen to subscribe to Green Magazine, the John Deere magazine, but I've been a subscriber for about 13 years now, and one of the guys, the weekly or the monthly column writers in there, just put one in a 318. I think it was a 350 Chevy. I don't remember offhand, but that was neat to see the pictures of the build. .10 acres double pass over everything. Yeah, that's with a 130. That's a good productive day for sure. What do you guys grow, Logan? Just curious. Like I said, my family did all vegetables. That's southern New Jersey is all sandy soil, so everybody and their brothers growing vegetables. Some guys do sod, some guys do cranberries, but it's mostly vegetables. So that's what my family did for years. Hey, good talking to you, Jerry. Thanks for tuning in. New transmission input shaft seal on the 332. Yeah, that's it gets easier once you've done it a few times. Did you pull the engine or pull the transmission to get to it? Because usually, like on a 318, you can just slide the engine forward a couple inches and you can get the charge pump off. But I imagine it's not so easy on a diesel. Hey, thanks, Ryan. Appreciate you tuning in. 5:30 does come early. I get up at 6 for now, but I imagine I'll be getting up earlier in the future. Corn and soybeans. Gotcha. Love to see a 318 with a manual transmission swap with an Onan and a manual with a clutch. Well, I haven't seen a 318 with a manual, but I do know of a 420. There's a fellow out in, I want to say Indiana maybe. Him and his dad have built a couple of custom 420s. They built one with, I think one's got the factory Onan engine in it. I could be wrong. One has a Kubota engine and one has was it a Deutz maybe or a Subaru engine with the 3-speed IH rear swapped into it. So that's kind of cool to see pictures of that. So, any last minute questions you guys might have before we sign off, or what? Here, let me ask you guys this: what other kinds of things do you want to see? Like what specific machines or anything do you want to see videos of? I am trying to make more videos. It's just a matter of finding time. I've got videos planned for all the tractor projects, and I am going to make a video on my new trailer. It's sitting right outside here, but if I wasn't on my laptop right now, I'd walk out and show you. So I do have a video on that coming. I also plan to do a video on Onan engine maintenance, basically, kind of like a Mr. Beef style video, because the engines need to be pulled out of both of these tractors. So I'm going to just do like a 35-year tune-up on them both. And I figure while I have them apart, I might as well do a video showing what kind of things to look out for and what to do to prolong the life of your engine. I've wanted to make a video like that for a couple years now, so I think when I have the engines out this winter, I'll do that. So that's on the list too. Up at 4 a.m. at the shop by 6 driving for PGM doing demolition and dumpsters. That's a long day for sure. Drive shaft on the 332 can be done without messing with the engine or trans. Wow, that's pretty good actually. It saves you from having to unbolt the engine or trans. Those IH trannies were solid. Yes, they were. They absolutely were. They're not when it comes to swapping gears out of them. I know a lot of pullers like to put the fine spline rears and the heavier carriers in them for pullers. They're not. They don't have a whole lot of room just because of the shape of the casting. They're not very roomy inside, but they're bulletproof. They are hard to kill. Want to put a 430 engine in it. You might want to look for a small Kubota or something, like a little 3-cylinder or 2-cylinder Kubota to swap into that 400. It can be done. I mean, guys have done all kinds of diesel swaps in those 400s. I personally probably won't own a 400. I had a bad experience with one, and they're such an oddball. They are not like any other garden tractor, which I understand they were Deere's first venture into super garden tractors, but I would much rather have a 420 for what they're worth. Hey, greetings from Kentucky. Or greetings from Pennsylvania, I guess, to Kentucky. How are you liking your new Cub? Is that the International Cub or the 2072 you're talking about? Showing a rebuild process before and after would be a totally awesome video. I would like to make those kinds of videos where I show things in sequence or like show things happening in real time, but the issue I have is every time I put the camera on something and I focus on working on something, something goes wrong. Either something breaks or, I don't have the parts that I need. Case in point, my blue truck has been sitting on jack stands for 3 weeks because Rock Auto keeps sending me the wrong parts for the brakes, even though they keep insisting that they send me the right kits, and I have to keep fighting with them. But just stuff like that always comes up. You never know what you're going to hit, and if I'm going to make a video of me actually working on something in depth, I'm going to make sure I have all the right parts, that I know exactly what I'm doing. I'm not just digging into it like an idiot. So hopefully someday I can get there in my video making skills, but might not be for a while yet. The 2072. I like it a lot. I haven't been running it lately because the starter took a crap, but it just gives me more reason to pull the engine out anyway. So, but it's a nice tractor, I will say. That thing is, it runs good. It's probably one of the nicest running Onan engines I've ever had. It's got good power. I can tell it lived a really easy life. And I just put the 3-point hitch on it too. I showed it earlier on in the first live stream, but I'm not sure if you guys got to see it before the thing cut out. Does your International Cub have that PTO that turns backwards? Yeah, it does. It's a 515 RPM, which is kind of goofy. I don't know why IH ever did something like that. They're really not good for much more than running a belly mower. That's it. Once you get the drive shaft isolator off and loosen the spline end bolts, you can just slide the drive shaft off the pump splines. Okay, I see. Yeah, the 318 and 316 don't use isolators, so you have to either move the engine or the transmission to get the drive shaft off. I mowed with my 216. It's been a long time since I mowed with my 210. A long time. I bought a nice, almost mint condition 46-inch deck Ford almost 2 years ago, and I've only used it once. That was the last time I mowed with that tractor. It's fun if I have a long afternoon and a lot of time to kill. But I think, like I said, for next season, I think the 318 is going to be the mowing tractor around here because I've only got a quarter acre. It won't take me more than an hour to mow, so I'm going to get a smaller mower deck and just kind of take my time with it and enjoy it. Dylan, I've got the 2072 over here and then the 782, which is sitting behind the H over there. Then I have the IH Cub. I would like to find a 169 someday. There's actually been a couple that popped up for sale here in Pennsylvania, but I don't have a use for one right now. But I would like to add one to the collection someday. A 169 and a 582, like I mentioned before, and a diesel again. Eventually, I will get another diesel. I went through my 200 series phase. They're great tractors to start out with, but I think they were kind of like a fluke, to be honest. They're built very heavy and very well, but I hate working on my 210. I'll be honest with you. I've had every nut and bolt apart on that tractor, and I just do not like working on them. If you're laying underneath that frame, there's a lot more clutter compared to like a 300 series or 400 series. So can't say I'm a fan of the 200 series as much as I used to be. All right, looks like we just crossed the 2-hour mark, so I'm going to wrap it up here. So I appreciate you guys all tuning in. I really, I was not expecting it to go this long, but I really, like I said, I really appreciate you guys tuning in. I never thought my channel would grow to what it has become, and it's nice to be able to talk with you guys, you know, sort of in person. We'll have to do this more often. I just, living out here in this black hole of Lancaster County, I don't think it's ideal for doing live streams like this, but I appreciate having all you guys tuning in, and it's nice to hear from everybody. So, yeah, I guess that's it. So this marks 10 years of being on YouTube, and here's to the next 10. So, as always, thank you guys for watching. If you like the live stream, comment, rate, and subscribe if you haven't already. And